We have a team of reporters all across the area covering this search for us right now. Heather Crawford joining us live from Mayport.
And Anthony, you just heard in that briefing, they say this is absolutely a race against time right now. But we heard Chief Powers with Jacksonville Fire Rescue say we are going to go strong tomorrow, and they need your help. They need volunteers with boats to participate and help find these missing firefighters. Now, I want to show you, we're here in Mayport, and this is where Jacksonville Fire Rescue has its mobile command headquarters set up right now. And this is also where today hundreds of volunteers turned out at 7 o'clock this morning with their boats, ready to get involved, ready to help in this search to find Brian McClooney and Justin Walker. They were last seen launching their boat into the water in Port Canaveral Friday morning, and they have not been heard from since. Now today, those volunteers who came here got their assignments, very specific grid areas where they were going to go out and search. And tonight, at this hour, many of them are still out on the water looking. Now, the Coast Guard telling us today that this is very much an active search and rescue mission, and that they will continue to search as long as they believe that they have a reasonable chance of having success in finding these men. So the Coast Guard captain leading this massive search, pointing out that we're talking about two relatively young, two healthy men, both trained firefighters, one a Navy combat veteran. So if anybody has the skills to survive out at sea for this long, it is definitely these two guys. And so that is why they're remaining optimistic. That, they say, is giving them a lot of hope. Now, they searched today. The search area has really focused on the area around where Brian McClooney's tackle bag was found yesterday. That was about 50 miles east of St. Augustine. They've factored into the drift pattern today, but that is where they have been looking. They've gone as far north as Savannah, Jacksonville to Savannah, searching, scouring that area, bringing in all kinds of resources, C-130s, the Navy's P-8 planes. They still, at this hour, have Coast Guard cutters out there. A massive search still underway to find these missing firefighters. And so now I want to bring in my colleague, Troy Kless, who's here in Mayport with me. And Troy, you just had a chance to go out with Jacksonville Fire Rescue on the water. You've been talking to boaters, and a lot of them are still, like I said, out there at this late hour.
That's exactly right. The volunteer effort is massive out here, but as you heard in that press conference, they need as many volunteers as we can get. So when we got the chance to go out on the boat with JFRD, we got a chance to get a little taste of what they have in terms of equipment, you know, stuff like sonar, radar, all of the things that can obviously help whether they're searching for debris or for those two missing firefighters. Now, we did also get a chance to speak with a woman who came up from Lake Butler, Union County area to help in the search. She says that her and one of her friends took time off work to come up here. And she said to me earlier today that while there is still plenty of hope, obviously it's still a little bit emotional thinking that these two men are still out there waiting for help.
You know, it's a terrible accident, you know, whatever's happened out there. And I really feel for the family. I was thinking about, you know, on the way out there, I was thinking about their mothers, their children, and it's bad.
Now, she was out on the water from between 8:30 this morning till 1:30. So again, they're going to continue to ask more people to come out here. And like they heard earlier, they want people also as far north as Brunswick and Savannah to join in this effort as well.
You know, I have to say, just being here on the ground, it is just awe-inspiring to see the overwhelming outpouring of support from our community, people far and wide coming together to try and find these first responders who they run into fires to rescue people. And so now people have their back and they're out there doing everything they can. Troy, thank you so much. And I do want to point out today during the search, they did tell us that they found the lid to a styrofoam cooler like the firefighters may have had on their boat, but it's also a very generic lid. So they did take that lid into their considerations when they were doing the searches today. They don't know, though, whether or not it's actually from their boat. So at this hour, the search is continuing. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll have more right after this.
And the search continues tonight for two firefighters who remain missing at sea. Crews with JFRD say they are not going to give up their search. Our Heather Crawford is on your side tonight live in Mayport, leading our team coverage.
Good evening, Anthony, and this is where Jacksonville Fire Rescue has set up its mobile command headquarters. You may be able to see some of the boaters behind me who have been out for hours searching the ocean, looking for any sign of those missing firefighters, Brian McClooney and Justin Walker, who haven't been seen since Friday. Now, we just got an update from the Coast Guard telling us that this is absolutely a race against time, but they are not giving up hope. They are searching right now. They're going to continue to search through the night. And the big headline tonight is that they need volunteers. They need people's help who have boats. If you have a boat tomorrow that you're able to take it offshore, upwards of 60 miles offshore, and spend most of the day out there, they're asking that you call in tonight to JFRD, to a number we have on our website, and let them know. They specifically need volunteers also in the Brunswick and Savannah, Georgia area as the search is moving north. But today, the big search area was narrowed down thanks to that discovery made yesterday afternoon by a civilian who was out on his boat looking for these two firefighters when he found Brian McClooney's tackleback. So listen to what the Coast Guard just told us about how key, how important it was to find that piece of evidence from the boat.
It's not normal that you'd find a tool bag like that. That allowed us to completely re-rack our plans overnight and put dedicated assets over an area where we knew we found something, and I can't even put a value on that. Unfortunately, with each day as you go forward, that clue becomes a little bit older, and we're desperately looking for something else that'll get us to Justin and Brian.
So when you talk about the search, it is a massive undertaking. Many agencies involved. There have been C-130s, the Navy's P-8 planes, several Coast Guard cutters still out there in the water tonight. And then you have to add into that all of the volunteers, dozens of volunteers who have spent hours, 10 hours out there on the water day after day looking for any sign of these missing firefighters. But again, they are remaining optimistic while saying that it is definitely a race against time. And so let's look back now as to how we got to this point and where it all began Friday. We've been following this story since Saturday, and there has been a long road to get to this point. The two men were last seen launching their boat Friday morning just after 11 o'clock. Around 6 that night, Brian McClooney's wife noticed that her text messages had not been read. About 2 hours later, the family got in touch with the U.S. Coast Guard. That night, the massive search began, but the biggest clue wasn't found until Monday afternoon. Around 2 o'clock, McClooney's tackleback was found about 50 miles east of St. Augustine, identified by his wife, who says he may have been trying to lead rescuers to the boat. As of Tuesday, that search has covered more than 50,000 square miles by sea and by air. And so tomorrow the search is going to move north based on the drift patterns and the currents. Today I do want to point out that a searcher did find a styrofoam cooler lid. Could be similar to one that was on these missing firefighters' boat, but they are clear to point out that they have no confirmation that it actually was from their boat. Now I want to send things over now to my colleague Cameron Eppinger. He is live tonight at the fire union where a prayer vigil is set to get underway in just a little while. Cam?
Yeah, Heather, that's correct. In about 30 minutes or so, that prayer vigil will be taking place right behind me here. We're across the street from the Jacksonville Firefighters Association Union. And this prayer vigil is simply just for the firefighters' families who are involved in this. We know that both families of Brian and Justin, they're in town right now. I actually did get a chance to speak with Justin's sister, and we talked about basically the massive search efforts that continues to go. And she says that she's just simply thankful for the outpouring of support from the community. And she also expressed her gratitude, and she also told me that she's looking forward to hugging him. And she says that's what's helping her stay strong, and that's what's helping her keep her faith alive. Take a listen.
We are just so vigilant in this search. You know, we're just actively asking and praying for people to donate their time, their resources, their money. And I hate asking for money, but it's what we need to help aid in this search for Justin and Brian. I'm gonna get the best hug when he's able. I'm ready. I can't wait.
And again, that prayer vigil will be starting in about 30 minutes here in Riverside. Of course, we're going to bring you live coverage of that vigil once again it's underway. We're live in Riverside. Cameron Eppinger, First Coast News, on your side.
Is there a device that exists that could keep boaters safe in an accident? A lot of you have commented on Facebook and sent us messages about EPIRBs. So that stands for Emergency Position Indicating Radio Beacon. Now, many of you asked us if this type of device is a requirement for boaters. Tonight, we're verifying it for you. To get some answers, we talked to Captain Jack Feeney at the Jacksonville Sea School. We looked at how EPIRBs work on the Boat U.S. Foundation's website, and we also went to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA, for an answer, and we looked at the U.S. Coast Guard's requirements for recreational boats. So an EPIRB is meant to help rescuers locate boaters in an emergency. Now, we don't know if the missing firefighters had this device on board their boat.
If you're offshore and you end up in a situation where you need help, you can trigger the EPIRB and it will send a message to the satellites above, and it will include your position and the name of your boat and your name, even your phone number. All is available to the Coast Guard.
If a boat starts sinking, there is an automatic version with a release mechanism that allows the beacon to release from its bracket, float to the surface, and start transmitting. The beacon, along with the bracket, must sink to approximately 3 meters before it will activate automatically. Now, Captain Feeney says that these devices are not required for smaller boats, and he says if you think you can use a cell phone in its place, think again.
So at some point, if you're out beyond 30, 40 miles, you've got no way to communicate if your boat starts going down or you lose somebody or there's a heart attack on the boat or some reason you need help. You need to have some way to communicate when you're further than cell range, basically.
The only things required for boats under 26 feet are life vests for everyone in appropriate sizes and visual distress equipment such as flares, flags, lights, and whistles. So the claim that EPIRBs are required for recreational boats is false. If you have something you'd like for us to verify, just send an email to verify@firstcoastnews.com. We also have a look at how much these devices cost and other alternatives on our website, firstcoastnews.com.
Anthony, thank you. So back out here live in Mayport, the search is continuing for Brian McClooney and Justin Walker, those two firefighters who have been missing since Friday. If you want to stay up to date on the latest developments in this story, and things are changing minute by minute, download the First Coast News app or go to firstcoastnews.com. There we have a live blog keeping you up to date on all of the new developments. Jeannie and Anthony will send it back to you, but tonight at 6 you're going to hear from the wives of those two missing firefighters as they hold on to hope that their husbands will soon be found safe.
A race against time. We just heard that for the U.S. Coast Guard, who gave an update about an hour ago on the search for the missing firefighters, Brian McClooney of Jacksonville and Justin Walker of Fairfax, Virginia. And tonight, we are learning new information about that massive search. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jeannie Blaylock.
And I'm Anthony Austin. So here's the very latest at this hour. There are 200 searchers looking for Brian and Justin by air and by boat. There are also 11 planes searching, some as far north as Savannah. And today, search crews covered about 13,000 square miles. That's a total of nearly 65,000 square miles. That's about the size of Florida covered since Friday night.
And Jacksonville Fire Rescue is calling for more help now from boaters. Tomorrow morning, as their shift, they focus up a little bit more northward. We're going to explain that in just a second and what you can do to help. We have live extensive team coverage. We begin with On Your Side's Heather Crawford, who joins us live now from Mayport. Heather?
And so, Jeannie, we just heard a short time ago from the fire chief, Chief Powers, say that they are going to go strong tomorrow because it is a race against time at this point. And they are asking anyone who has a boat capable of going 60 miles offshore to come here tomorrow and to volunteer to help out. They especially need volunteers as well as in Brunswick and in Savannah, Georgia, as that search, as you mentioned, moves north. Now, today, dozens of volunteers showed up here to the Mayport boat ramp, offering their time, their service to go out and search these waters. It was very planned grid search that they took part in. Some of them have been coming in just in the past few minutes, but a lot of those boaters have been out there for hours, and right now they are still out there searching for any sign of these two missing firefighters, Brian McClooney and Justin Walker, who were last seen Friday morning in Port Canaveral, Florida. Now, this is a huge search. The Coast Guard has had its C-130s up. There's several Coast Guard cutters on the water right now. The Navy's P-8 planes have been scouring the seas looking for them. And much of the search today has focused on that area around where Brian McClooney's tackle bag was found yesterday afternoon. That was about 50 miles off the coast of St. Augustine. Now, they factored in today the drift and the currents, but the question now is how much longer will this massive search effort continue? And we heard just a short time ago from the Coast Guard captain who said at this point there are no plans to slow down.
We learn with each round of searches, and we come back and we continue to look at the drift as the drift goes forward. We continue to search until there's no reasonable expectation that we're going to be successful. At this point right now, we are still actively engaged in that search, and we still believe that that success is possible. As we look tomorrow, as we look into this evening and into tomorrow, we'll continue to reevaluate based on what we're able to find.
And so they say they are so grateful for all the help from all the volunteers who have been offering their time to go out and search. Troy Klesch joins me now. And Troy, you had a chance to go out with Jacksonville Fire Rescue on a boat this afternoon and saw a lot of those searches going on.
That's exactly right. Many of the boats that we saw included JFRD firefighters taking off their own personal time to search for a fellow firefighter. And many other volunteers are, of course, joining in on this effort. But going to the JFRD boat, we got to see some of their equipment that they use. And while that boat that we were on is primarily used for, of course, fighting fires, it has plenty of equipment from radar to sonar and infrared cameras that can help in that search. But I did speak also to a boater from Lake Butler who said that after hearing about what was going on, she wanted to come up here and volunteer her time and get in on these search efforts as they continue.
I just wish, if something happened to me out there, most of the time I go in the Gulf, but still things happen. And I would want them to come looking for me. I give it to everyone that's out there, and hopefully there'll be more out there tomorrow and the day after, as long as it takes.
Now, she was out there for about 5 hours today, and among over 100 people that were searching. But like she said there, and like JFRD was saying during that press conference, it simply is not enough. They want as many people as volunteers as they can get, Heather.
But I do have to tell you, it warms your heart just to see all the people pouring out their support to show love for these firefighters, for their families. Troy, thank you so much. And so many, hundreds of volunteers have taken part in this search, and today, Justin's wife took part in the search by plane. First Coast News' Jessica Clark is on your side. She joins us live from Mayport with more on that part of the story. Jess?
Well, good evening to you. Indeed, a lot of people out on the water today. We want to point you over into this direction to see just one of the many boats that are coming in right now this evening. Some of the folks on that boat wearing JFRD shirts. That boat came in just a minute or two ago from the inlet here at Mayport. And as you mentioned, yeah, a lot of people out really following this story, whether it's on TV or if it's on social media. A lot of people out on boats looking and volunteering to help find the men, and also by air. Actually, there was a woman today who's married to one of the firefighters who's missing. Her name is Natasha Walker. She's married to Justin Walker. They're from Virginia. She took off in a plane earlier today from Titusville Regional Airport with the Air Mobile Ministry, and she told our crews today she felt compelled to do something.
I need to be up there, feel like I'm searching too, and we've been following, everybody's plan, and I've been getting, frustrated with the results of not, going to bed at night and knowing that I have to, feeling guilty going to sleep or eating because I know our husbands are out there not doing that.
Again, we are looking live at a boat that just came in from searching for the two missing firefighters. Many people on the boat we're looking at wearing JFRD shirts. If you are wanting to help, Jacksonville Fire Rescue has created a link to donate to help fund fuel for boaters and private search planes, and you can find that link at jfrd.com. Again, that is jfrd.com to help some of the searching that will take place on boats like you're looking at there. We're live at Mayport. Jessica Clark, First Coast News, on your side.
Jess, thank you. And so we heard just a short time ago the Coast Guard captain say the biggest challenge at this point is the current. And so for more on the current, the weather conditions impacting this search, let's send it over to meteorologist Tim Deegan. Tim?
Thank you, Heather. And certainly there are a couple currents working out there. One of the currents, it's a wind current. Now, the good news is there has not been much of a steady wind over the last couple of days. So that portion, that ingredient of the current, that has weakened tremendously. But then there is always the Gulf Stream. And this is us using colors to try to paint the Gulf Stream. And notice as the Gulf Stream goes to the northeast, it's not quite as definitive. One of the reasons for that is because typically we pick the Gulf Stream out by the fact that the water is warm. warmer. Well, this is the warmest time of the year in the oceans, and thus the water outside the Gulf Stream, actually on either side of the Gulf Stream, it's just about as warm as the Gulf Stream. So that's why it's not quite as definitive as it goes off to the north and the northeast. But if anything, the Gulf Stream becomes a little bit stronger. Now, the weather, again, overall has been quiet. Doesn't mean it's been thunderstorm free. There are some showers and thunderstorms. In fact, you'll see the thunderstorms actually increased late this afternoon and this evening. East of Mayport, east of Brunswick, offshore of Savannah. Those are the areas that Mark with the Coast Guard were talking about that they'll be checking out increasingly tonight and tomorrow, and more than likely, I would suspect, offshore of South and maybe even North Carolina. But we've been reminded that showers and thunderstorms over the Gulf Stream, not necessarily bad news. Remember, they do provide plenty of fresh water. Heather?
That is good news on that front. Tim, thank you so much. So right now, a prayer vigil is getting ready to take place at the Firefighters Union Hall. First Coast News' Cameron Eppinger is on your side, continuing our live team coverage from there now. Cam?
Yeah, Heather, we were just updated about 10 minutes ago, and they tell us that that prayer vigil is actually going to be getting started in about 30 minutes. And we know that this vigil is being put on by the wives of local firefighters here in Jacksonville. We know that this is specifically going to be for the families of Brian and Justin. Again, that's going to be happening here in about 30 minutes. We know they're going to be praying for not only the safe return for Brian and Justin, but also praying for the dozens of people who are involved in these search efforts. We also know that there's going to be dinner served here later on tonight as well. Now, I did get a chance to speak with Justin's sister to learn a little bit more about Justin, and she spoke highly of him. She says that he's always positive. He was the funnest person to be around. He enjoys singing and he enjoys karaoke. And she also took time out to express her gratitude and thankfulness for the immense support from the community. And she also talked a little bit about that tackle bag that was found yesterday. Take a listen.
It gives me a lot of hope. It's just them out there saying, hey, we're out here still. I have every feeling that they put that out there themselves. I don't know if they maybe heard a plane that maybe went over and they didn't see him, or I'm not sure what their thought process was, but I fully believe that it was them saying, hey, we're here.
And the sister also wanted us to pass on the message that they are still accepting donations for the massive search efforts. Again, you can just simply visit our website at firstcoastnews.com for that link. We're live in Riverside tonight. Cameron Eppinger, First Coast News, on your side.
Cam, thank you. So at this hour, the search is continuing. The Coast Guard telling us that it will continue throughout the night, and they're really asking for volunteers. They need a full force tomorrow morning to head out and search for these missing firefighters. The Coast Guard captain pointing out that these are young, healthy men. Brian is a combat veteran, both of them trained first responders. So if anyone has the skills to be able to survive out on the water for this long, Jeannie, it is definitely these guys. Back to you.